In the dim glow of a lantern swinging from the rafter of an old wooden barn, the air thick with the scent of hay and sweat, a young woman lay crumpled on a bed of straw, her face twisted in agony as waves of pain ripped through her body. "Easy, it hurts," she moaned, her voice barely a whisper amid the distant howl of the wind outside, her hands clutching at her swollen belly as if to hold back the inevitable. The rancher, a weathered man with calloused hands and eyes etched by years of solitude, froze in place, his knife poised midair, the blade glinting coldly under the flickering light. He had been about to make the cut, a desperate measure for the life hanging in the balance, but her words pierced him like a forgotten memory resurfacing. Then, softening his grip, he leaned closer, his voice a gentle murmur carried on the night air. "It'll be over quick," he said, though in his heart he knew the pain ran deeper than flesh, touching scars neither of them could yet name. If this opening has already tugged at your heartstrings and you believe in the power of kindness and second chances, please hit that like button, drop a comment below sharing your thoughts, share this video with someone who needs a reminder of hope, and subscribe to the channel, Gentle Hearts, for more stories that celebrate the human spirit. Your support keeps these tales alive. The woman, whose name was Elena, had not always been destined for this remote corner of the Montana wilderness, where the vast plains stretched endlessly under a sky that seemed to swallow whole lives. She had grown up in the bustling chaos of a city far to the east, where neon lights drowned out the stars and dreams were as fleeting as the traffic rushing by. As a child, she had been full of fire, sketching visions of a future filled with art and adventure, but life had a way of dimming that spark, first with the loss of her parents in a senseless accident that left her adrift in foster homes, then with the arrival of Mark, a man whose charm masked a darkness that slowly eroded her soul. He had promised her the world, but delivered only bruises and broken promises, trapping her in a cycle of fear that grew heavier with each passing day. When she discovered she was pregnant, the joy was overshadowed by terror. Mark's rage had escalated, his fists finding her more often, and she knew she had to escape before the child within her became another victim of his fury. With nothing but a backpack stuffed with a few clothes and the last of her savings, Elena had fled westward, hitchhiking through rain-soaked nights and dusty days, her belly growing as her hope waned, until exhaustion in a flat tire on a borrowed car stranded her on the outskirts of a forgotten ranch, miles from the nearest town. The rancher, Harlan, had found her that stormy afternoon, slumped against the fence post, her face pale and streaked with mud, the wind whipping her hair like a flag of surrender. He was a man carved from the land itself, tall and broad-shouldered, with a beard streaked gray and eyes that held the quiet sorrow of a life marked by loss. Decades ago, he had been a husband and father, tending this very ranch with his wife, Clara, and their young daughter, Lily, whose laughter once echoed through the fields like birdsong. But a brutal winter storm had taken them both, Clara succumbing to illness in the isolation, and Lily lost to the fever that followed, leaving Harlan to bury his heart alongside their graves on the hill overlooking the property. Since then, he had withdrawn into the rhythms of the ranch, caring for the horses and cattle with a mechanical devotion, his days blending into one another like the endless horizon. Strangers were rare, and trust even rarer, but something in Elena's defiant gaze, even through her weariness, stirred a long-dormant instinct in him. He had helped her into the old farmhouse without a word, offering her a spare room with faded quilts and a view of the rolling hills, telling himself it was just temporary, an act of basic humanity before she moved on. Yet as the days turned to weeks, Elena's presence began to chip away at his isolation. She helped with small chores when her body allowed, sharing stories of her art over simple meals, and in return, Harlan found himself opening up about the ghosts that haunted his nights, the way the silence of the ranch had become both sanctuary and prison. But the challenges mounted like gathering clouds on the prairie. Elena's pregnancy, already high risk from the stress of her escape, brought complications that no amount of rural grit could ignore, swelling in her legs that left her bedridden, sharp pains that came without warning, and a fear that gnawed at her constantly, whispering doubts about her ability to be a mother after all she had endured. Harlan, unaccustomed to vulnerability, struggled with his own demons. He watched her with a growing protectiveness, fetching supplies from town on horseback when the roads turned to mud, brewing herbal teas from Clara's old recipes to ease her discomfort, but the memories of his losses made him hesitant, afraid that getting too close would invite more heartbreak. There were nights when Elena's sobs echoed through the thin walls, her hands cradling her belly as she whispered apologies to the unborn child for the chaos she had brought them into, and Harlan would sit by the fire, staring into the flames, wrestling with the urge to comfort her yet paralyzed by the fear of failing again. The ranch itself seemed to conspire against them, with a harsh early winter bringing blizzards that cut off the roads, isolating them further, and a pack of coyotes that threatened the livestock, forcing Harlan to spend long hours patrolling the fences, his rifle heavy in his hands. In these moments of struggle, Alina's resolve flickered. She questioned her decision to run, wondering if solitude was better than the risk of trusting another soul, while Harlan battled the temptation to push her away, to retreat back into his shell before the inevitable pain. Yet, as the snow blanketed the land in a deceptive peace, things began to shift, subtle at first like the first thaw of spring. Harlan shared more of his past one evening by the hearth, recounting how Clara had taught him to see beauty in the broken, mending fences not just with wire but with patience, and how Lily's drawings, still tacked to the barn walls, reminded him that life persisted even in fragments. Inspired, Elena picked up a charcoal stub and began sketching the ranch's landscapes, capturing the stark grace of the horses against the sunset, her art becoming a bridge between them. He, in turn, opened the old stable to her, introducing her to the mares, one of which was heavy with foal, mirroring Elena's own journey and teaching her the quiet strength of endurance. Their conversations deepened, revealing shared wounds, Elena's fear of repeating her past mistakes, Harlan's guilt over not saving his family, and in that vulnerability, a tentative bond formed, not of romance but of mutual healing, where kindness became the salve for old scars. The pains grew more frequent, signaling the child's approach, and Harlan prepared as best he could, drawing on faded memories of animal births and makeshift knowledge from yellowed books, his hands steadying as he realized this was his chance at redemption, a second opportunity to protect life rather than mourn it. The night of the birth arrived like a storm breaking, the wind rattling the barn doors as Elena's contractions intensified, driving them to seek shelter there amid the warmth of the animals. She labored through the hours, her body racked with exhaustion, the pain blurring the line between fear and determination, and Harlan stayed by her side, his presence an anchor in the chaos. As the moment crested, her moan echoed through the space, freezing him in a flood of memories, but he pushed through, guiding her with whispered reassurances born from his own reclaimed strength. The baby emerged into the world with a cry that shattered the tension, a tiny girl with Elena's fierce eyes and a tuft of dark hair, wrapped in Harlan's flannel shirt as the first light of dawn pierced the cracks in the walls. In that instant, the ranch transformed, the isolation that had once been a curse became a cradle of new beginnings, Elena holding her daughter close, tears mingling with smiles, while Harlan stepped back, his heart mending in ways he never thought possible. Months later, as spring bloomed across the plains, Elena chose to stay, turning the ranch into a haven for others like her, a place of second chances where art workshops mingled with the lowing of cattle, and Harlan found purpose in grandfatherly duties, his laughter returning like rain to parched earth. The child, named Clara Lily in honor of the past, grew amid stories of resilience, a living testament to the truth that pain, though it hurts, can birth something profoundly beautiful when met with kindness. If this story has touched your heart, stirred emotions you didn't expect, or left you inspired by the enduring power of compassion and renewal, please like this video, share it with a friend who could use a lift, and subscribe to Gentle Hearts for more tales that remind us we're never truly alone. Your engagement means the world and helps spread these messages further. Before we end, I'd love for you to comment your favorite line from the story below. It could be the one that made you pause, smile, or tear up, and let's see what resonates most with our community.